This episode is brought to you by Ursa Minor Outfitters. Folks, I'm absolutely in love with my loon mug. It's handmade, it's an absolute piece of art. Whether it's at the office or at the house, people keep asking to check it out. If you're not a loon fan, they also have other beautiful mugs for wildlife fans of moose, bears, and eagles. They specialize in products highlighting the outdoors and local pride through quality design by local artists. They've even started expanding into items beyond mugs, like apparel, dog accessories, and soon candles and more. They also try to partner and highlight other small businesses, and in some cases, forego profits in lieu of charitable giving to help their community, such as the dog rescue. So check them out, UrsaMinorOutfitters.com, and enter promo code HikesMikes10 at checkout to receive 10% off your order. And for our four-legged hiking partners, they also have a portable silicone dog bowl and also a sweet over-the-collar dog bandana. Go check them out, UrsaMinorOutfitters.com, and don't forget to enter promo code HikesMikes10 at checkout to receive 10% off your order. Welcome, everyone, to the Hikes and Mikes podcast. I'm your host, Ivan, and together we'll embark on a weekly journey connecting with extraordinary hikers from all corners of the U.S. and beyond. As the cool and colorful embrace of fall envelops the Northern Hemisphere, we've had the privilege of conversing with remarkable individuals throughout this season. Their experiences and adventures will leave you yearning to hit the trails. And in today's episode, we're heading to the great state of Alabama to talk to our special guest, B, which you can follow him on Instagram at NOLA_roots. B shares with us some of his favorite hikes in and around Alabama, including some amazing and unique waterfall hikes. He also shares with us his incredible hiking experiences in the Pacific Northwest, Hawaii, and Iceland. Without further ado, let's jump into this episode with our guest, B. Welcome, everyone, to the latest episode of the Hikes and Mikes podcast. I'm really excited to talk to our next guest. He's going to be describing a hidden gem when it comes to waterfalls here in the United States, and that's Alabama. But he's been to some amazing places across the U.S. and abroad. Thanks, B, for joining us on the podcast. I'm really excited to chat with you. You know, we always like to start off by asking our guests how long they've been hiking for and how they got started.
I've been hiking for about 6 years now. I moved from San Antonio to Huntsville and was literally trying to find something to do. And I went hiking with this small group and immediately fell in love with it. We did a small, easy hike, maybe 2 miles, but just the experience of being outside again, it brought me back to my youth. And then I realized how important being outside was to me. So, and then I was hooked. And then from there on, I was, doing research and trying to find local hikes to go on and even explore some caves, which was like different for me. I heard about that from my moms and of course, and everybody else in the family. So yeah, but then, it lit the fire.
Yeah, and I'm excited to talk about some of the caves you've been able to explore. But could you share with us a little bit about what the hiking scene is in and around your neck of the woods?
I would say the hiking scene in this area is very active, but it's not as active as places like the Pacific Northwest, So active in this area, you might encounter 10 people on a hike, depending on the time of the year. If it's a watering hole or a swimming hole, then of course, it's those crowds are going to be a little bit bigger there. But it's an active scene. The people are generally very nice on the trails. You could find the information is readily available. It's a really active hiking scene, but the range of the hiking is broad because you can get in this area and drive 2 hours and be in another state. You can be in Tennessee. You can go to the west to Arkansas and all those other places. So within a 6-hour drive, you can really get into some really nice hiking.
Yeah, and we were talking about that beforehand. And I think that's one of the things I love about the East Coast is everything is so readily accessible by car or train. Like you said, right. You can go in any direction for a couple hours and be in a whole new landscape. When you do have a free weekend, do you have some favorite hikes or destinations that you like to travel to?
Well, this past year, I started going down to Bankhead National Forest, which is in like north central Alabama area. And there's some beautiful things out there. So I would say anything in that Bankhead National Forest area, you can't miss. Upper and lower White Creek Falls are great. it's just so many to name, there's so many waterfalls out in the area to name. And then, at times you can go out there and have the trail and the waterfall to yourself. And some of those are some spectacular waterfalls to not have anyone with you. So if you're looking for a good escape, those going to be the ones. I love the ones in Tennessee as well. There's Machine Falls, and right around the corner from that is Rutgers Falls. Those can get a little peoply because people love to swim in them, which I don't blame them. I've jumped in once or twice. So it's those are probably the ones off the top of my head. But you can't miss in this area. You really can't.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought up waterfalls because the more people I talk to, they're telling me that Alabama is like a secret waterfall destination. Like you guys have a ton of them and they're easily accessible for the most part. How would you describe the waterfall scene there in Alabama?
Abundant. This is everywhere, man. And if that's what you like to do, and you're not really into, the 5 to 6 mile hikes to the waterfall, then Alabama, like I said, that Bankhead area, and then you go a little bit further northwest, then they're all over the place. It'll keep you engaged. You know what I'm saying? If you're a novice hiker and you want to just get out and get to a waterfall and your fitness might not be where it needs to be, you have those second thoughts like, oh, I don't know if I can make this. This is the perfect area for you to make them. Are there steep waterfalls hikes? Yes, there are. There's a few that's strenuous that will get your attention, and not in a good way. So, but they do have those around here, But for the most part, you can find a waterfall that most people of any age group can complete. So it's accessible to everyone who has a decent fitness level. And then a lot of times it's the group you go with. They're encouraging you, talking to you, the conversation is flowing, then, of course, you could do whatever you want, right? For 2 or 3 miles, right? And it's not that bad.
I'm glad you brought up the difficulty level because there was one that you posted recently, and correct me on the name, but wasn't it like Bust Your Ass Falls?
Yeah. That was in North Carolina, but it wasn't. It was named Bust. I think it's named that because you can slide down the waterfall and hit, and hit your butt in the water. I think I'm not a local for that area, but
Yeah.
I think that's what it is because it wasn't a hard hike to get to.
Oh, okay.
But it's just a name that was catchy and drove by and I was like, oh, I have to stop to get it.
This is a difficult question and you probably have multiple answers, but any favorite or unique waterfalls there in your area that you kind of tend to go back frequently?
Yeah, it's a strenuous hike. It's the Walls of Jericho. It's a tough hike. The incline is insane, but the color of the water, the bridge crossings, and then the water crossings as well. Once you get to the end, the waterfall is like no other in this area. But it's also one of those ones that you don't want to do if there's no water down there. If it's dry, you're not going to bust your butt and go on there and come on out, right? It's just like, nah. So you want to wait for that waterfall early spring, February, it's going to be cold, but early spring is probably better, like April. It's probably one of my favorite hikes, but it's one of those hikes where you're walking in with your backpacks on, you're smiling, having a great time, and the people that's coming out are not speaking to you. And it's not because they're being rude. It's just they just don't have the wind to speak, and it's all incline coming out. I think at my fastest, I might have done it in an hour and 30 maybe without stopping. When I got to the truck, I finished off the 6-pack and slept for a little while before I got home. It was crazy. It was tough, man. But that's just movement. I was by myself, so I didn't have anyone talking to me. So I was just really trying to trek and get out of there. That's one of the ones that I really like. Stephen Gap is another one that's really nice. It's just so many. DeSoto Falls and right in the Fort Payne area. That's another one that's a really nice waterfall, when it's flowing heavy. It's hard to say just one because there's so many in this area. Like I said, Bankhead has probably 7 of them that I love as well.
Yeah, you mentioned one that really caught my attention, and that's Stephen Gap Cave. And your pictures are incredible. What's the process to get into Stephen Gap Cave? Is it a little bit of a bouldering situation, or is there a pretty good trail that leads you into the cave?
All right, so it's funny you say that because Stephen Gap was my second hike. I've ever done, and I did that with my daughter. So I was really new. I didn't have any hiking boots. I was hiking in jeans. Didn't do anything about AllTrails. I was just out there. That was before the permit. Now you have to get a permit or whatever. So we got to the end, and it was so muddy we didn't go in the cave. I was worried about her. I was like, I don't know about this, right? So then later on, I wound up going back. At that point, you still didn't need a permit, and I was able to descend into the cave. But now you have to register with this local authority branch. Can't remember the name right now, but you have to register with them and sign a waiver to go in, and then they suggest that you have certain safety equipment, because a lot of people unfortunately lose their lives out there because sometimes they look at the top of the cave and lose their footing and then they fall down in. So here recently this year, one of the hikers that I'm cool with, his handle is the Slightly Handsome Hiker. I don't know about all that, but so he was an area really good guy to hike with, super cool. So he was in this area and he's like, "Hey man, would you like to hike?" So I was like, "Cool." And it was crazy because it was a tornado watch, right? So, but he's on the time frame thing, right? And like, dude, this is a tornado watch. So it was raining and blah blah blah. So we got out there, and I had never seen Stephen Gap with that much water. I mean, the flow was insane. Along the trail was insane. It's a trail. It's not you don't have to bushwhack or anything like that. It is a trail. It was easy to navigate through. So it's not a bad, I think it was probably a mile hike in. But it's one of those places that you have to be super careful, because it's very slippery in there. If you can see some of the pictures I post, I'm not a risk taker, right? So I'm off the ledge. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, dude, this is all I have. He laughed at me. He's like, "Hey, man, it's funny." He's like, "But I understand. Everybody has to have their limits," which was cool, right? I let him do his thing, however that went, and I was like, dude, this is all I have. This is all, I don't have any more than this, So those pictures that you might see was like, oh, they were nice, but I wasn't close to the edge and I wasn't, I was like, nah, I got to get out of here, but it's a beautiful cave, but you just get a permit, you apply for a permit and you do a digital copy online. Then they come back. Now there's a gate. Before, when I first go on, you just drive in. So now you have to get the gate code, and then they let you have access to the parking lot. So certain days a week you can go as well. There's a lot of little stipulations with it. They try to preserve the area, which they should. It's absolutely gorgeous and beautiful, a beautiful place.
If I were to go for a weekend trip, would it be possible for me to be there in Alabama and get a permit that weekend, or should I be planning ahead of time?
No, you have to plan ahead of time. I would, because they only give out so many permits a day, I think. Make sure you get it. And then during the summer and the spring, more people are going to be outside, of course. So those permits will be harder to get, So I would plan ahead at least. I mean, if you're going to, it's at least a month ahead. Just be like, okay, this is when I'm going to be here. Are there any available slots? It's such a beautiful place. You want to plan around it.
Yeah, and you've taken some gorgeous pictures from multiple trips, and there's ones where the water is kind of dried up, but then there's another one where it's raging, and I think there's even one where somebody's like rappelling down from the top. It's just gorgeous pictures. And before we started, we kind of share a connection with waterfalls, where I started really hiking and falling in love with hiking because of a waterfall hike. And waterfalls are a frequent feature on your IG feed. What's been your connection with waterfalls and waterfall hikes?
Well, I'm from New Orleans, of course. So being raised there, you're just surrounded by water all the time. So we spend a lot of time at the pool or, swimming in the river or wherever we can get in the water. We wanted to be in the water, So as a child, I always was around water and seafood and stuff like that. And then I got older, life gets in the way, job, other things to do. So then you get away from it. So when I started hiking again, I started the first couple of hikes was, after Stephen Gap was involved in water. Then I started realizing how important being around water is to me, right? Because it brought me back to my time as a kid in New Orleans. So, it's something that brings a youthfulness to me, to be around water and just to hear the water. A lot of times take my boots off and put my feet in the water, maybe have a beer or two, not too many. You got to be safe on the trail, but so that's the connection. So it always brought me back to the time as a kid and loving to be in the water. So, and the waterfalls give me that youthful feeling again, which is great to have.
This episode is going to be coming out in the middle of fall. For Alabama and that region, do you have any favorite fall color hikes?
Right here in Huntsville, there's it's called Mount St. O. It's close by. And there's some real interesting rock formations. And if you catch the weather just right, there's little small waterfalls and stuff. It's beautiful. The colors are amazing during the fall. Of course, I said Bankhead is going to be nice as well. You can go right down to Tennessee. There's a place called Denny Cove. It's a really nice, spectacular waterfall with the colors are beautiful going on. Out there, you're walking on like a ledge almost, and the overlook is amazing on that side. There's a couple, like Stone Door, I think it's called. Can't remember the whole name, but it's a stone wall, but that's amazing as well. Those views that you look out and see the changing of the leaves, which is different because different for me because in New Orleans we didn't have that. Mm-hmm. It was either just hot or cold. Yeah, we didn't get anything else. So, moving outside of New Orleans and Texas and moving here and experiencing the changing of the leaves and those things are totally different for me, but it's also very attractive and it pulls you in.
They always release that map, and it seems like the progression starts in the Northeast, and then throughout October, it trickles down to the South. I know it changes from year to year, but is there like a block of weeks each year that might be prime fall colors in your neck of the woods?
You want to go, anywhere the second or third week in October, or even maybe the first week. You're going to get some change there. But that second week October is going to be, going to get the most bang for your buck. So yeah, that around that time, should be, and you can, like I said, as you go further up in Tennessee, you're going to be happy with the results of those hikes and that without the price tag. Last year I went to Ithaca and everything. It was the prices of Airbnb seemed like they were more expensive than they normally would have been, and we checked the prices when we came back, and they were all different. So you're going to get some of the same stuff here as far as the colors, but you're not going to have to deal with the prices and the crowds on the Northeast.
Yeah, true. With fall coming, that means winter is not too far behind. And I feel like a prime hiking season throughout the entire South, from California to Georgia, it seems like winter is one of the prime hiking seasons. Any upcoming winter hikes that you're going to be enjoying during the winter months?
During the winter months, I think I'm gonna try to, of course, go to South Carolina. I hadn't been to South Carolina. It's been one of those places that was right there, because it's only 6 hours. It's right there, but I always find an excuse not to go. So I'm going to hit South Carolina this this winter. I wanted to try to hit Ohio, just a few little places, Missouri maybe, because you don't want to go too far, because then too far north and it's freezing.
Yeah.
Right. We want to go, so you want to go a little bit and kind of venture out. So I have this radius of like I said, the 5 or 6 hour radius. And I try to go to those places within that radius. And maybe venture out every once in a while, but not in the winter, because I'm from New Orleans. I don't know how to drive in the snow. There's no reason to fake that. I don't know how to deal with it. But yeah, but next week we're going to Maine, the fall trip. We're going to go to Maine, Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont, so we're going to do those things up there. That's the fall trip.
Oh, I'm excited to see that content. We've been talking, you've been able to travel across the United States, not just down south and up the East Coast, but you even made it out to my neck of the woods, the Pacific Northwest, and you actually completed what I personally consider my favorite hike in all the Pacific Northwest, and that's Eagle Creek Trail to Tunnel Falls. What was your experience like?
So I've done the hike 2 times. So I go to the Pacific, I go to your neck of woods every year. So next year we have to hook up and do a hike.
For sure.
And have a beer. So, so the first time I went, early June is always the time in which I go. I try to go at least. It was still, everything was coming alive. The greenery, the animals moving around. There were deer on the trail. So it was an amazing journey in. The elevation is not that bad, but it's a steady incline. So it's not like you're busting your butt, but it is an incline. And then the mileage is a problem. The rocks and all those other things. But along the way, there's so many unnamed waterfalls. The first time I ever seen a succulent plant in the wild, I was like, I only seen those on the ledge in older people's houses, right? And so there's a succulent on the ledge in the wild. I was like, this is amazing. Like, they really grow out here. So I'm a city guy. At heart. So, but the Punch Bowl and all the other ones were amazing. So I get to the Tunnel Falls, and like I said, it was June. I mean, the water was high everywhere. So I go through the tunnel to go to the other side, and it's roaring. I can't even grab the rope. I was like, man, I don't really know about this. This is a little bit much, right? Yeah. The city guy came into me. He's like, man, go home. You know what I'm saying? So I was like, man, this thing is, whew. But you put in all the mileage to get there, and I was like, man, I can't see the rope. If I can't see the rope, I don't have anything to hold on to get out of this tunnel. So I'm like, I had to come back out here next year, so I turned around immediately, was kicking myself in the butt. So this year I went with my friends, and we went straight through and got to the end, and it was an amazing experience. That Twister Fall back there and the other falls back there are well worth it. I wish I would have been able to see it when the decent water was flowing through it. But it is one of my favorite hikes. You get everything, the water crossings, the ferns, the wildlife, waterfalls, if that's what you want, the swimming hole, because you can kind of go down to Punch Bowl and swim if you want. Yeah. In early June, it might be a little too cold. But that's an option too. You know what I mean? There's everything out there. There's one spot that you can get everything that you want if you love hiking and being outside. There's campgrounds. You could camp in various places. So it's a beautiful place, man, and it's probably one of my favorite places to go. The Pacific Northwest in general, but every year, next year I want to swim in Punch Bowl. So next year I'm going down to Punch Bowl and I'm going to jump in.
I love that. Yeah, and you hit it right on the head. It's a gradual incline, but for me, when I did it last year again, about a mile from the trailhead, I was like, man, this is more rocks than I remember. This is more mileage than I remember. But I will say, so one thing I noticed, because I did it before I moved to Hawaii, and there was a pretty bad fire.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like maybe 7 years ago. So they just reopened it about 2 years ago.
All right. Yes.
The one, and if you could say a positive effect of the fire is because it cleared out a lot of the trees and brush, you're actually seeing more waterfalls than you used to. And I don't know if you could recall, but like I feel like you're averaging like 2 waterfalls a mile up to Tunnel Falls.
Yeah, you know what? And that's a good point because the first time I went to Oregon, I couldn't hike there because it was closed. And then the first time, it was funny because we hike, so we have this connection with nature. You know, seeing all the burned trees and you could still smell it. It did something. I felt emotional, and I was like, I'm not even that kind of guy. But you felt like this is my safe space, and someone has destroyed some of it, and so it was a different kind of connection to that area for me, and it was very different. It was a very different feeling for me, but it was also great, And then now to see it coming back to life, I'm sure it's not as thick as you remember it, but to see it coming back to life is still amazing to see.
Yeah, it's good to see the regrowth of the forest. And I'm glad you mentioned Twister Falls because I feel like a lot of people, it's a reward to make it to Tunnel Falls. But if they know that, Twister Falls, while it's not as big and grandiose as Tunnel Falls, is only like maybe a quarter mile past Tunnel Falls.
Yeah,
it's a perfect. Yeah, if that, it's a perfect lunch spot or just a perfect place to relax. And I'm glad you were able to visit it and see it because it is a little bit unique compared to some of the other waterfalls, how the streams kind of crisscross. Now, B, you went abroad recently, and I think to a place that's on a lot of hikers' bucket list, and that's Iceland. And of course, you were able to capture some of that country's incredible waterfalls. Can you share a little bit about that experience and maybe a little bit about that roadside waterfall that you had all to yourself?
First of all, Iceland is one of those unique places because the waterfalls are so spectacular. You see some that's going to be even the smaller ones. The backdrop of the waterfall is amazing. So you're gonna be able to see long distances, and this waterfall is just in the middle of nowhere, and it's like just amazing. 100-foot waterfalls. Mossy rocks. So it's a very unique place. There was a lot of things there that I felt like I didn't take enough footage. I think we talked about that earlier. I felt like I still have a whole bunch of footage to go through. But I feel like if I start looking at my footage, I'm like, man, I missed this. I missed that. I didn't catch this like I thought I should have. My suggestion to anybody is to also have an itinerary. Of course, we all going to have that, but don't be so structured where you can't move outside of the itinerary. And I think that was my fault. We had a plan, wanted to see these waterfalls, this, and this, and we didn't see all the ones we wanted to see, but there was a lot of things that we missed, and if you have the time, and I spent the week there, and we have the time to see it and to kind of enjoy and be in the moment. That's what I would say. Like, just enjoy it. Give yourself 2 days in a location and move on. Another hiker told me about getting some food and preparing, like having a bunch of snacks with you. And that's one of probably the most important things because the time we went there was 22 hours of sunlight or whatever, something like that. So the sun really never goes down, but I'm an early morning hiker, but you find yourself hiking and driving all day. Then you look at your watch and it's like 9:00. But the thing is, everything still closes at 9:00. Just because the sun is out and it feels like 3:00, these people are not working. So my thing is, and those snacks saved us a couple of days because we looked up, we was on a trail in the middle of nowhere. We couldn't get back to a restaurant. We just had to eat hummus and blueberry muffins or Doritos or something, So it was like, so I would say make sure that you go to, there's a Sam's or Costco where the airport is. And so I make sure you get you some snacks to kind of hold you over because you're going to go over in time just because there's so much to see. And we stayed at various Airbnbs around the island. So we moved around a lot, got into some hot springs, natural springs, whatever. All those things are like, you have to do those things. To seeing the sheep everywhere, was different too because they're just there in the middle of the road, So it's all kinds of stuff like that. Another important point: if you want to go see some of the popular hikes, make sure you get to them early. But you can go at night, or you can go in the middle, go later on at night or in the morning. Sometimes we got out at 2:00 in the morning.
Wow.
And 2:00 in the morning, you have all all the waterfalls to yourself. If it's one of those big ones that everybody wants to see. So, my tip would be have an itinerary. Be flexible with your itinerary. Make sure you load up on food and water. You don't need water because the water is so good there. You don't have to buy water. And just enjoy the moment. It's a lot to take in. And, it is. I feel blessed to been able to get out there and see it. And once you go, you have to go again. So I'm going again.
Yeah, I feel like Iceland is one of those places where, you set your itinerary, but then once you get there, you see something or another traveler tells you about another location. So you do a little side quest. It's one of those things where even in the moment, you're just adding to the
Right.
list of things you want to see.
Oh, and one more thing, bring some water repellent pants, like some waterproof pants or something, because you're going to get wet every day. You're going to get wet, whether it's raining or something. The mist from the waterfall, some of the mist from the waterfall had everything in my bag soaked. Yeah, it's bad. So make sure you have the little rain jacket for your backpack and everything that's waterproof, because you're going to get wet. It's ridiculous.
Oh, solid tip. One of the segments that we like to do here on the podcast is do a deep dive on our guests' Instagram and pick a picture that captures our attention. And, the one that caught my attention right off the bat is that you got a chance to visit Oahu and you actually did Coco Head and the Stairs of Doom. How was that experience? But then also you did like Coco Head's mainland big brother, the Manitou Incline in Colorado. How did they compare? Because Manitou's like basically double Coco Head, I feel like.
So this is the experience in Coco Hut. So I go up there, I see it from the road. Both hikes, you can see them from the road. So now you have to really start assessing: am I physically fit to do this? Right? So do I have enough water? So you're thinking about all these things, right? I'm going up Coco Head, so it's ego crushing because you're going up and you're having a hard time. Then there's somebody carrying a 80-pound pit bull on their back just going up the mountain. Or there's UFC guys up there with all kinds of weights and chains on them. They're just speeding by you. So you have to keep your ego in check, first of all, with both of them. You have to realize that these jokers they're on a whole nother level out here. And some people go out there to train. I think that Coco Hut was, at the time I did, it was a little bit more dangerous. They had parts in which there were no rails on the side and you could fall 20 feet down. So that was a little bit more dangerous at that point. I don't know. That was when I first started hiking 6 years ago. So that was the major difference between the two. Manitou was the same thing. I get out to Manitou and there's some guys training to be firefighters with their whole gear on and an oxygen tank, and they're running up and down the mountain. So, it's just crazy, right? And then Manitou has the numbers on it count. So you know where you are in reference to where you have to go. So all of that is these mind games. This thing is just, but it's both of them are really amazing. But Manitou, you go in and you go down the backside. But Coco Head, you go up, you got to come down the same place. So if it was dangerous going up, it was going to be dangerous coming down. Manitou, you get a little break, but with the steepness, but it's longer because it's just a regular trail. So that's one of the major differences with them. But both of them are extraordinary places to see and to get out there. Some beautiful people out there, and the views are amazing no matter when you do it.
For folks that don't know, so Coco Head, I think, is under a mile. It's about 1,000 feet of elevation gain from the parking lot. But then Manitou, I want to say it's like the same mileage to the top, but it's 2,000 feet of elevation gain. And you mentioned that there's numbers, so you know how far you're in. And I don't know if that would mess with me more, knowing, I have X amount of steps left, or if it would motivate me.
It's demoralizing. It's demoralizing, because you're sweating going in, and you look down and you're on step 50. You're like, oh God, so it's like, man.
Now, Fee, I feel like a lot of day hikers and even some backpackers, they might have a regular routine or maybe a regular custom that they do on or off the trail. Sometimes it's a favorite snack or meal. For some, it's a summit beer. For others, it's just a moment of zen. Is there a regular thing that you like to do on some of your hikes?
Yeah, my food of choice on the hikes, I'm gonna give me a couple of peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, some apples, some grapes and oranges, a ton of water, of course, and a 6-pack of beer. So, I'm bringing that in. And, of course, with my camera and all of that stuff, the drone. So I walk in and, so that's the ritual. When I get to the hike or to the wherever I'm going, a waterfall or summit, a lot of times if it's the water and it's springtime or early summer, I'm taking my shoes off, put my feet in the water, having a cold beer and just chilling. Find me a spot away from the people. And that's just my area, my time. Life sometimes is so crazy. Sometimes you just need some quiet,
Exactly.
Drink some water. So I spend, sometimes 45 minutes to 2 hours out there just chilling. And that's another thing that I've learned in my journey with hiking before, because I would get out there, see the waterfall, and want to turn back and go to the next one. So it's enjoying the process and being in the moment is the thing that I'm working on the most right now.
Oh, that's awesome. I feel like a lot of hikers, especially early on, there's some growing pains and some learning experiences that we all kind of come across or experience. Has there been any close calls or having an unexpected wildlife encounter, or maybe Mother Nature, like the tornado catching you by surprise, the tornado warning? Have you had any of those experiences?
Okay, so like the group, the guys that I hike with, or the people that I hike with, some of us are all city guys, right? So we haven't moved in nature like this. We're all city guys. So we're doing a subway in Utah, and we're like, get out, get the permit, and we're going to, the subway hike and whatever. So we're just hiking, just following the trail. Right? It's like 4 or 5 of us or something. We're talking stuff and just hiking, early start, of course. So we're out there. We're still talking about the people at the center telling us to make sure that our family members know where we are, because if we get lost, they're not coming for us. Right? So that's what we're talking about. Like, this is wild. Like, nobody's going to come for 48 hours, so I'm like, everybody's making sure somebody knows where they are. So we're hiking. We're just following this trail and realize that we're not on the trail. We're just out here somewhere, we're way off the trail. And, we're in Utah, no signal. So we're like, what is going on? Like, so I think one of us was like, dude, this is not the trail. He's like, oh, yeah, sure it is. No, dude, this is not the trail. We were like, what? So we found our way, like, going down some path to get to the trail that was super dangerous. I'm already sweating my butt off because it's hot and I'm not supposed to be hot. So it was like my feet hurt already, and I'm not even into the hike. It was because we're walking on all these rocks and stuff, and that was probably it took us about an hour off trail, so it made the whole hike. It was already a difficult hike. It made the whole hike that much more interesting. That was one. Another one, we had a close call at Mailbox out there in Seattle from one of the guys. We had a new hiker guy. We didn't check his bag. He had all kinds of stuff that he shouldn't have had on a hike. So we had to split it up. In the process of splitting it up, he knocked somebody's water bottle loose. So he lost all his water. So we're all like, oh, man. So by the end of the hike, we're all hurting because we got his stuff. He's hurting because he wasn't ready for the hike. But, his memories and laughs. So it was a great time. So, but some of those times we kind of on the line of like, I don't know about this. What I'm saying? So we all still do stuff. We got the satellite phone now. We got, the safety kits and all that kind of stuff that when we first started, we didn't think we needed.
Yeah.
Luckily, no one has ever gotten hurt, or we haven't gotten really lost when we're out there with no protection. That was crazy. But, but that's some of the most craziest things that's happened.
Now, B, for folks that are interested in visiting your beautiful state of Alabama or surrounding states like Tennessee, any tips or advice for hikers of like maybe when to go, maybe what to pack? Like if mosquitoes are bad or insects are bad. Yeah, any general tips or advice?
Yeah, I would say anywhere from, if you just want to see the colors of the leaves and blah, 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 October is going to be beautiful, but we don't have a lot of rainfall in October. So some of our waterfalls are not going to be flowing as well as they're going to flow in the spring. So I would say if you want to come in this area in November, December, because it's still not cold yet, and then towards the end of February, March, April, it's going to be amazing. It's going to be amazing water flowing in almost all of the waterfalls. You just have to, if you can do some stuff in the middle of the week, if you want to go to those swimming holes, I would advise that in the spring because the weekends are going to be a lot of people out there. So, you can do November, December in this area for the water. And then once again, late February on, because that's when it starts to warm up. And warm up to us is like, 50s, 40s. So it's perfect hiking weather. You put a jacket on and a hat. you'll get warm, but you'll be fine. You won't be freezing.
B, one thing I wanted to ask, and I've noticed a big shift here in the Pacific Northwest from when I started hiking to recently. Back when I started hiking, I really didn't see that much diversity on the trails. And you coming from a city life to then being a person who loves the outdoors, do you have any tips or advice for folks that might not have like access to the outdoors but are interested in maybe getting into hiking or just enjoying the outdoors themselves?
Yeah, like I get a lot of people saying, "Man, did some kind of animal attack you? What kind of animals do you see? What kind of snakes you see?" So a lot of people are reluctant to go because they think they have this fear that you're hiking, you're going to run across all kinds of wild animals and bears are going to eat you up. There's going to be those isolated events, of course. But I say, wherever you are, just go walking in a local park, just to get out there and see that, all of this stuff is not, some of this stuff is the figment of your imagination, but there are wild animals out there. But I've done a lot of hikes and I hadn't seen anything. I've seen some stuff, but nothing that I felt like was going to attack me or, get in the way of me going home. So I want people to just get out there first and see that, it's not as dangerous or, your life won't be threatened on the trail. With that being said, even when you're on the trail, you got to make sure you're moving safely, right? We're not going to be taking any chances, running around. You want to make sure your footing is secure, have the proper footwear. If you're a person that doesn't have good balance, make sure you have some poles with you. So you want to take those things in account, but you also want to just get outside, just get outside and realize that this stuff is free, right? You people go on vacations and go to these resorts and spend all this money. You can go on a hike and have a great time. And all it takes is some sweat equity.
Now, B, we're almost wrapping up 2023. Do you have any hiking goals for the remainder of the year, or maybe some hiking goals for 2024?
Yeah, I want to go see some stuff on the Northeast. So I want to go to Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont, and maybe Massachusetts, around in that area. I want to do that. I'd love to go to South Carolina, like I said earlier. I have some friends up in Ohio, wanted to kind of get up there. Probably won't make all of these things, but there's lofty dreams. Missouri, would love to go to Missouri because all of those things are within a short distance from me. But Maine is for sure. South Carolina is something that's on my radar. If I can find a weekend to slide out there and go, that'll be fine. And, maybe Utah.
That sounds amazing. I'm looking forward to seeing the content from your Northeast trip and what's to come in 2024. That was it for the regular questions. This next section of the podcast is the this or that question. So I'm going to give you 2 hiking related topics, and you just choose what you personally enjoy out of the 2. So the first one is, do you prefer ascending or descending?
Descending.
And then I think I know the answer to this one, but I'll still ask it. Waterfalls or summits?
Waterfalls, of course, yeah.
And when it comes to trails, especially the incline ones like Cocoa Head or something that's strenuous, switchbacks or straight up?
Straight up.
Do you like trek poles or freehand?
Freehand.
And then this is a new one, but when it comes to your footwear, are you trail runners or hiking boots?
Trail runners. I like trail runners.
This next one is more, again about the trail systems, but do you prefer a loop trail or an out and back trail?
Loop trail, really, because you can see something different, but it just depends, because sometimes you're going in and you're focused, you're not focused on the trail, so you want to see that stuff and get that footage coming back. So I guess if I had to pick one, I'd just say out and back, I guess.
And I think I know the answer to this one too, but when it comes to a body of water, do you stay dry or do you jump in?
It's going to depend on the time of the year, but I'm going to get in. I might not jump in. My feet going to be in there.
Yeah.
I'm going to sit in there. I'm going to touch the water. A towel is going to be in my bag, right? So you have to.
Yeah. And this next one's tough because you've seen both of them from where you live and then where you've been able to hike. But sunsets or sunrises?
Oh man, sunrise guy.
And then this is another equally tough one: spring wildflowers or fall colors?
Oof. Oh man, that was tough. That's tough. Oh man, that's tough. I would say fall colors. I will.
And then the last one is, when it comes to your social media, do you tag a hike or do you not tag a hike?
It depends, man. That's a discussion that we should have had. But yeah, I would 9 times out of 10 I would tag. What I found here recently, people are real funny about that. You know, when I didn't tag a couple hikes, I had people who don't even follow me, you know, demanding that I tag this hike. You know, I was like, you don't even follow me. You know, it's no good morning there. How you doing?
Yeah.
It's where's this hike? You should put this hike. And I was like, you know, so it makes you feel some kind of way about that. You know, I mean, I'm not trying to hide these locations from anybody by no means. I want everybody to get outside, you know, especially minorities, to get out there and understand it and deal with it, with nature, you know, be reconnected. But yeah, I would tag them.
Yeah, it's one of those interesting situations online. I think that's probably the most controversial thing when it comes to the outdoor community and Instagram.
Because, you know, it's a double-edged sword. I mean, one word, it's a double-edged sword because a lot of times some of these places are being defaced and not appreciated, you know, so, you know, you feel like you understand both sides of it, you know, and then a lot of times, I know you've been hiking for a while, you do so much research trying to find these hikes and you're conversing with other people, you know, you put a lot of effort in that. And for somebody just to be like, hey, I want that level of entitlement is a problem as well, you know, because I'm like, just like I might have talked to you about it, might talk to this person, that person, and I maybe looked it up and then went to AllTrails to find a whole bunch of stuff with it. So, you know, it's that kind of thing too. So it goes both ways, but we have to protect the outdoors as well as, so we have to kind of educate about, you know, taking care of the outdoors. And, you know, I've hiked off trails sometimes too, so I don't want to stand here and be like, I'm the no leave no trace guy. I believe in the principles, but I have hiked off trail. You know what I'm saying? So I don't want to stand and judge, but I don't like the painting and the drawing or the stripping bark off the tree. Those to me, that's crossing the line.
Yeah.
You know, I've been on some hikes and found a barbecue grill. You know, a barbecue. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, dude, you know you left a barbecue grill out here?
Yeah.
Or a cooler or like one shoe. Like, you walk back to the car with one shoe? You know, so it's like some of those things. So I get the whole not tagging it also, but, you know, some of us who know nature, respect nature, we want to see it and enjoy it as well.
I think you made a great point. For those online, especially if they're not following you, you're not going to get the hike by, you know, demanding it without being cordial. That's just not a way you approach any hiker, whether it's online or on the trail.
Yeah, right. Just in the grocery store, you say good morning. Hey, good morning.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, man, this is crazy. You know.
Well, that was it for the this or that questions. For folks that want to follow you on social media and see some of the wonderful content and waterfalls that you've been able to post, where can they follow you on Instagram?
You can follow me on NOLA_roots, as well as you can follow me on We Hike Too. I have 2 pages, so you can find me on either one of them. I post and tag the other one all the time. So those are going to be the 2 places that you can find me.
Well, I appreciate you coming on the podcast. It's been amazing talking to you.
Well, thank you for the invite, man. I really appreciate you and what you're doing for the community.
Thanks, Pete.
All right, let's talk again.
And that brings us to the end of this episode alongside B. We extend a heartfelt thanks to him for coming on the podcast. Make sure to stay connected and follow his upcoming adventures on Instagram at NOLA_roots. Be sure to check out the episode show notes to see his other Instagram page too. We have an incredible lineup of episodes planned throughout the fall, and we can't wait to share them with you. New episodes will be dropping every Monday with occasional bonus episodes on Fridays. To ensure you never miss out on those thrilling tales, remember to hit that like and subscribe button. Your support means the world to us. Don't forget to join our vibrant community on Instagram at Hikes and Mikes. We'll be sharing episode visuals, my own personal hiking content, and so much more. Let's stay connected and continue to inspire each other on this remarkable journey. As we bid farewell, remember to tread those happy trails, embrace the great outdoors, and keep the spirit of adventure alive. Until next time, my fellow explorers, happy hiking. This episode's music was created by Ketsa. Follow him on Instagram at Ketsa Music. This episode is brought to you by Flip Socks. Whether you're on the trail, on the job, or in the yard, Flip Socks will keep Mother Nature out of your boots with their innovative nylon sleeve. You no longer need to worry about any annoying debris getting trapped in your boots during your hikes. Simply flip down the nylon sleeve over any boot to prevent Mother Nature from finding its way inside, keeping your feet comfortable all day long. To get your first pair, visit flipsockswithaz.com and enter promo code HikesMikes10 at checkout to receive 10% off your order. And for listeners who use the promo code at checkout, I'll be donating 100% of the Season 2 promo code proceeds to Big City Mountaineers, who provide transformative experiences through connections to nature that strengthen life skills and build community for youth and disinvested communities across the nation. So if you're tired of bits and pieces of the trail finding its way into your hiking boots, pick up a pair of flip socks today with the promo code HikesMikes10 to get 10% off. For website and promo code, see the episode description.